Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tim Stratton with Fleetmatics. I'm here to train everyone on the admin portion of the new ELD app per the mandate. You'll notice there's going to be a few slight changes within Reveal that you will see in the logbook portion tab Reveal. But what I'd like to do is first walk through the admin guide, and this is something that Bernard Long, your customer success manager, will provide everyone. Along with Gerald, and that way everyone has this on hand. It's a quick summary of how to set up a driver, make sure that their rule sets and if they're using yard moves, personal conveyance, so on and so forth, are set up properly. So with that being said, I'm going to walk you through what we call the ELD admin guide. And what's nice is that I know everyone on this and all the drivers are going to be iOS devices, but for the admin portion, it doesn't matter because you're looking in Reveal, and Reveal doesn't see whether or not it's an Android or an iOS phone or tablet. So as we walk through, there's a couple different areas that we're going to want to make sure we check. First is the account preferences, and what we're going to want to do, and you know what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk everyone through this from the standpoint of, let me move this over, and I'm going to go over here and go to the admin portion. So that way we can get a live version of this. So with that being said, within the admin section, and this is something that we'll make sure everyone is aware of and comfortable using. So we want to go to the account preferences page. And it doesn't look like I don't have that ability on this. Because I'm using our demo account. But what we would like to do, with that being said, let me bring this back over. So I do apologize for any confusion here. And I just want to get rid of that. So under the account preferences, under the mobile options, we want to make sure that if every driver in the account is set up for is supposed to be ELD compliant, we'll have a tab up here at the top, and if I zoom in on this, you'll get a better screenshot of it. So under the mobile options, under the account preferences, you'll see there's a yes or no for ELD compliant. So we'll want to make sure if everyone needs to have this, if all the drivers need to have this, I would select that. Underneath there's the default rule set. So if everyone that was on AOBRD, there shouldn't be much of a difference here. The settings should remain the same, but we want to make sure all of the information in here is correct. If certain drivers have different rule sets or rule cycles, you can still have this set within the account preferences, but then once we get into the individual drivers and setting up their account or their driver profile, we'll have to switch those around. DOT number, obviously very important. Carrier name, if most of the drivers are coming out of the same, let's call it hub, so to speak, which I know in this case there's multiple hubs. But if you want to have this set, you can have this set as the corporate address. Once we get into the actual individual driver profiles, we will have to update this, and I will walk you through on how to update the drivers. And if they're working out of a different carrier, a different home terminal or a different hub. So the following information is required for every driver, and I believe that your company is in the process of getting this information for everyone, collecting it from everyone. Is we want to make sure we have all of the drivers' information as far as rule cycles, what rule set everyone's going to be on, the start time, the default driver time zone. This is important because if you have vehicles spread out across the country, we need to know that if certain drivers are in Eastern Standard, Central Standard, Atlantic, Pacific, Mountain, we need to know where they're based out of from the time zone standpoint, so that way the app can work properly and keep track of their hours properly. If we don't do this and it defaults to the home corporate address, then it will potentially have cause some issues for their logs and their hours of service. So like I said, all of this would be entered in the system already, but like I said, we'd have to go in and individually look into the individual drivers if they have certain requirements that are outside of these. The driver setup. Now this is, most of your drivers should be set up if they were using the AOBRD compliant, or excuse me, the AOBRD version of our app. There's only going to be a few changes within this. Number one, we're going to want to make sure that the ELD compliant button is checked here. We will need obviously the username and password, which you guys have already been using because you've been using the AOBRD app. But what's new is that we will require the license number, the driver's license number. So if I blow this up just a little bit, you'll see here there's a field, and there's the drop down for the states, and then you have to enter their driver's license number. This is very important because in the log portion of the app, for the DOT officer, they're going to have a third tab in the app that's going to show them all of the information for the driver, their carrier home terminal, address, driver's license number, so on and so forth. There's going to be a multitude of information on that third tab within the app. So we have to make sure that the driver's license number is updated within their account. Once we have the driver's license number updated, we're going to go over to the mobile options. And this is what's going to be a big difference between the AOBRD version and the ELD version. With that being said, we are going to have the option for personal use and or yard moves option. And that's what's going to be a major difference between those two versions. And what I'm going to do is actually show it to you within the live version of. So if I go into my driver list here, and I'm in our customer success demo account. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take this random Bob person. We're going to go in and we're going to edit his driver profile. So his ELD is checked, so that is correct. Here's his driver's license state and number. If he had a driver number, employee ID, however you wanted to do it, his email address would be here. But under the mobile options, we'd want to make sure that the personal use and the yard moves, that both of these boxes are checked. And the reason why is because when they pull up the app, it will show them how to, it'll actually pull up options under on duty and off duty. So off duty, personal use of the vehicle, and then on duty yard moves. And that is important if they are moving the vehicle around, let's say the yard, if they're on a project site. It sounds like from Bernard's explanation of your company that you guys do a lot of off the road type work. And with that being said, that falls outside of the 8 hours of service driving time if you're not on a federal road or a state road. So we want to make sure that the drivers are using the yard moves option. So we still keep track of their hours of service time, but it doesn't count when they move the vehicle. It doesn't count towards their drive time. So very important that we enable both of these options, and we can work with the admins to make sure that each driver is set up properly on this. But in case there are any issues with one of your drivers saying, hey, I don't have this or it's not showing up, we want to make sure we go into the individual driver's account and verify that these are enabled. Under here, you'll see the rule set, rule cycle, and start time. So like I said, we can inherit this from the account preferences from that first slide I showed you. Or if there was a different, let's say different rule cycle or rule set for particular drivers, you uncheck the box here. And for some odd reason, my demo account's not letting me uncheck this, but you would uncheck this, and what that's going to do is it's going to open up these 3 fields, so you can actually modify these 3 fields by using the drop-down. Underneath that, so once you hit uncheck the inherited from account preferences, under the rule sets, you'll be able to select a different rule set, And then the rule cycle, you can select the 8-day or 7-day, and then the start time for that particular driver. Most companies default and just leave it at 12 a.m. Underneath, you're going to have the company info, so carrier name, carrier home terminal, and the DOT number. Now, this is very important because we want to make sure where the vehicles are located out of is the address. We want to make sure that address is inputted here. So if this is, as an example, if this was the corporate address here, we would want to make sure that we uncheck this and actually type in what address that vehicle is going to be based out of. And then if there is a different carrier name, so if there's a different, if it's Xylem or, Godwin Pumps, we want to make sure the carrier name is updated in there appropriately as well. And then down here under the driver time zone, this is the other important area. Inherited from account preferences, this in particular for the example, our corporate address is in the Eastern time zone. If the vehicle is going to be the home terminal is going to be out of somewhere, let's say Chicago for the example, you would uncheck this and then the pull down box and make sure that Central Standard Time is selected for that particular driver. So very important that we highlight these two and make sure that we know where they're going to be based out of. Okay. So once we have all that set up, now you're going to come over to your logbook tab here, and what you're going to notice here, oh, this is nice. So if you haven't already, once you go into your logbook, we are notifying the customers that we've released a new version of the Logbook iOS app. So this is nice because whenever we have an update, and your phones, tablets should be set to, the app should be set to auto update. But if it is not, for any reason, we want to make sure we notify the customers that we've updated, there's a new release out. Usually it's a bug fix of some sort. They don't have to download a new version of the app. So with this being said, this is just our way of notifying the admins that, hey, look, make sure your drivers are all using the latest version of the app. So you're still going to see the same information that you saw under the AOBRD option. What's going to be slightly different on this is that you're going to have your hours of service overview where you're going to see your drivers, the rule sets, rule cycles, their current status, status duration, the last update, and then their clocks over here, right? You're still going to have the option to change them from time used to time remaining over here to the right. And as you can tell, I'm looking at the entire fleet. If I wanted to look at a certain group, I could, narrow that down and just look at, if I'm doing this by location and I'm a dispatcher for a certain location, I can separate it out that way. But for this example, I'm just going to do the entire fleet. Excuse me. 71 total drivers. I have 4 driving. I have 26 on duty, and then I have 41 off duty. The hours of service history. This is what's going to be slightly different for all of you users that are used to using the older version of our logbook. So I'm going to actually pull up. So under the hours of service, you're going to see the month here, the month view here. And this is for this particular driver, AA. So apparently we like using batteries. So this is the driver. You can see the current day is the 13th here. All of these days are uncertified. So we would have to have the driver certify their logs within the app. The admin cannot force the driver to certify their logs. The drivers have to do it within the app, and I'll show that within the driver demo after this. So let me see if I can pull up an example of one of our drivers that, let's go to Curtis. So here's an example of what the logs will look like. So you've got, for this particular day, it looks like we're today's date. So you can see the driver's logs here, off duty, He's on duty, does a little bit of driving, and then he's still on duty, not driving, right? If you need to add a, let's say, a correction to their logs, you cannot add it to a day that has not been certified. So as you see, anything in red, these days have not been certified. But let's go back to February 7th. And apparently, we have no information for, he didn't do anything on the 7th, 8th. Let's check him on the 9th. So on the 9th, here we go. So here's an example of logs. He went on duty at 11:30. If you know the driver went on duty at 6 o'clock, you have the ability to, come over here, and this day must be certified in order to add a new status. So as you can tell, there's no red mark here on the 9th. So this day has been certified, but you know the driver started at 6 o'clock. You can come over here and hit the plus sign, and this is where from, and it goes literally down to the minute. So I know at 6 o'clock in the morning, Curtis went on duty. So I'm going to find 6 o'clock. Went on duty. And I can, yard moves, let's just say he's on duty, not doing much. The address, this is where if you knew the home terminal address or wherever your driver is at that particular time, you would enter that address. So for this example, I will enter in 1234 Main Street. Usually the system will then find the address. I'll put Chicago as the example. Chicago, Illinois. Okay. If there was a trailer number or a shipping reference, you could add those as well. If there was a co-driver, you could add that in here. And then, see, what's nice is that when you start typing in the address, so let's do East Gulf Road. I'll take our address here that we use. And let's see. Usually it'll pop up. It'll find the address, and you can just click on the address. Once you find the address, make sure you check the trailer number, the shipping reference, and I will just make sure. I apologize. Once you check all of these, the trailer number, the shipping reference, if there was a co-driver, if it was applicable, you could add it there. You do have to enter comments here, and you could say driver forgot to go on duty. And this happens, this is a common occurrence. And then you would have the ability to save this and add it. So usually when you start typing in this address, you're going to get an auto-population of a field here where you can select the address. And that once you have that, you can hit confirm. And then that'll actually add the status and make sure that this person's on-duty status was changed, and that you will propose it to the driver. The driver has to accept or reject this change within the app, and they'll get a notification in the app. So that would be how to add a driving status to that particular driver's. Now, in the AOBRD option, you had the option, or in the AOBRD version, you had the option to edit the logs in real time, more or less, whereas with the ELD mandate, you are not allowed to do that. The day has to be certified in order for you to go in and change it. Now, you're going to get some pushback from the drivers, and they're going to ask, why should I certify a day if I know it's incorrect? Well, the way the system is designed, the driver has to acknowledge it. They just have to hit certify. The admin can go in and make the changes to the logs. And then under that propose the driver option that we saw in here, where it says propose to driver, they're going to have to accept that change in their app on their tablet or phone. Once they accept the change, their logs on their tablet or phone will update. Another big change in our ELD version is the unidentified miles. Now this is important. So before on the AOBRD option, If you had unidentified miles and you had an alert set up, let's say a driver forgot to log into his vehicle and started driving, you would get an alert in the back office saying, hey, there's a vehicle moving, nobody's assigned to it, we know it's an ELD vehicle. Let's find out, let's contact that driver. Under this new tab here within the ELD version, you're going to be able to go in here and click on unidentified miles. And you're going to see all the different drive times. You're going to see the vehicle information. So if the way your vehicles are labeled here, you're going to see all the drive time, the location of when these occurred. And let me look at one. Let's look at one with a decent amount of miles. All right, let's say this one here for February 6th, 3.2 miles. What you can do is go over to the pencil sign over here. This is going to allow you to pick your driver. And I know these miles were under Curtis, so I'm going to go to Curtis and say those were his, and say driver's device was disconnected from vehicle. And you have to leave a comment here, and it's mandated, so that when the DOT officer looks at the logs and sees there's a change or a modification to their logs, there's a comment and who made the comment as to why they were modified. So once you do that, then you can hit propose to the driver. And what that's going to do is come up on his or her screen, their notification screen within their tablet or phone, and say, hey, Tim Stratton proposed a change to your logs. Do you, assign these miles to you in the drive time? Do you accept or do you reject those changes? And the driver would just hit accept, and then their logs would update. So we wanted to create an easy way to take those unidentified miles and assign them to make it much easier than it was before. Under the old version, you would get an unidentified or unassigned miles report, and then you'd have to manually enter those in. And it was very painstaking and cumbersome. Whereas this option within the new version will allow you just to click here, assign, leave your comment, and then propose the driver. So it's kind of a nice, and then you can change the status here. So if they were doing yard moves or personal use, you have these three options here of what to assign to that driver. So from an admin standpoint, these are going to be the major differences that you're going to get. Under the reports option, you're still going to have your driver log report, your hours of service violations report, and your vehicle inspections report, depending on how you use your DVIRs. The ELD transmission report, this is primarily if logs have to be sent to the FMCSA, almost like an audit report. So don't worry necessarily about this one. But the three primary reports you're going to be using are the driver log report, the hours of service violations report, and the vehicle inspection report. Same as you did before with the AOBRD version. So I will pull up each of these just so you're familiar. So you're going to see this is an example here, but here's the report, here's the logs. We're going to give you the totals right here at the bottom of each day. Actually, this is a cumulative total at the bottom. So the same as you would see before. The violations report is going to look exactly the same here. So Curtis iOS, he had the most violations, 12 total violations. We had 4 drivers, though, with violations. So Betty Boop, looks like she forgot to take her break. So like I said, these are just examples here, but you'll still have these like you did with the old version. And then the vehicle inspection report, it's going to look the same excuse me, as it did before. Whereas my Ferrari, it looks like the remarks, it was a pre-trip, not working, so I can see if there were defects detected or not. And these reports you can still have set up to be sent to your mechanics or whoever's handling your maintenance for those vehicles. So nothing changes within these 3 reports. If you have any further questions, my recommendation is to go to over here under the where it says Customer Success FM Transport Inc., which is our fake company. In the Help Center, if you click here, you're going to notice my page opened up into a separate screen, which is nice because if you're like me and I work off of 3 screens, if you work off of 2 screens, you can come to this Help Center and keep it open on one page, and then have your Reveal account open on the other. On one screen. You can have the Help Center there. You can have your Reveal open on the other screen, and within there, you can go to the e-tutorials. And here, you'll be able to see right here, we have e-tutorials. And within there, there's going to be a Reveal Logbook ELD Web Portal Administrative e-tutorial. So this is a 30-minute e-tutorial. It's an interactive e-tutorial. So what that means is it's going to help. It's going to explain how the inner workings of Reveal go, but it's also going to ask you to type in certain things and click here, click there. So not only is it's not going to be a boring 30-minute video, it really is going to be an interactive one where you're able to learn and almost like a touch, see, feel type feel to the training. So it's more or less a refresher course for you after this training. If after this you feel uncomfortable still, we do have the ability to sign up for live training. And within the live training tab, if you go to the live training schedule, you will see that we have US Live ELD Logbook training. It's an hour and 30 minutes, but as you can tell for this particular day, for Wednesday, the 14th, it's already closed. But as you go out, you can see there are room here for trainings. And you can also go to the following week to see what's open. So if you really wanted to be able to set aside, or if you have new hire trainings or trainers that you want to onboard somebody and they want to learn how to do this, I recommend using this as a good tool to train the new people that will be using the system. So as you can tell here, February 20th at 11 a.m., I would register here, name, address, email, and phone number, and they can set up for the hour and 30-minute. And everything is going to be set in Eastern Standard Time. So just be wary of that. So those would be my recommendations for if you need refreshers on how to use the admin portion of the logbook within Reveal. If you have any other additional questions, feel free to contact your Customer Success Manager, Bernard Long, or you can contact me, Tim Stratton. I sit right next to Bernard, so I'm more than happy to help if you have any particular questions or real-life scenarios that you want to run by us. We'd be more than happy to help you out. With that being said, I hope everyone feels comfortable with this training. Take advantage of the additional resources that we have, and have a great day.